You don't make a woman miss you by chasing her, because when you chase, you're always there. You're too available, too predictable, too easy to reach, and people don't miss what they always have. You make her miss you by making her feel your absence. But it's not just about ignoring her or going silent. It's deeper than that. It's about showing her that your world doesn't stop when she's not in it. It's about walking away, not with anger, not with drama, but with peace. Not your silence, your power. The quiet kind. The kind that doesn't need to explain itself. The kind that makes her think, why hasn't he reached out? Is he doing okay? Is he thinking of me? Because power doesn't shout. It makes her wonder when she feels that you don't need her, that you're living your life with purpose, that you're not sitting by the phone, that you're not checking her status, liking her posts, watching her stories. That's when something shifts inside her. That's when her emotions wake up. That's when she starts needing you. Because women don't crave men who beg. They crave men who are calm, confident, grounded. Men who know their value. Men who choose who to let in, not chase what walks away. And ironically, when you stop needing her to miss you, that's exactly when she will. So here's how to make any woman miss you badly. Not through games, not through tricks or emotional manipulation, but through presence, distance, and the power of mystery. Let her feel the weight of your absence. Let her feel what it's like when your energy is no longer in her world. And if she ever comes back, let her meet a version of you that's even stronger than before. Let's begin. Stop talking first. Don't always be the one who keeps the conversation going, because when you're always the one reaching out, always the one continuing the chat, always the one saying good morning and good night, she starts expecting it. It becomes normal, routine, background noise. And the truth is, what's expected rarely gets appreciated. But when you pull back slowly, when you stop giving more than you're receiving, something shifts. When you leave the chat while it's still warm, still flowing, still fun, you create a gap, a little space, a pause. And that pause makes her feel your absence. If you're the one who says, talk later, before she does, if you're the one who ends the call with calm confidence, you leave her thinking, wait, that's it. And that's exactly what creates longing. Because what's left open, what's left unfinished, stays in her head longer. It becomes a loop. She'll replay the conversation. She'll reread the last message. She'll wonder why you didn't say more, why you ended it early, what you're thinking now. And that curiosity, that tension, that's what makes her miss you. Not because you disappeared, but because you knew when to stop giving, so she could start craving. Don't be everywhere. If she sees your name popping up 10 times a day, in her notifications, in her feed, in her inbox, you're not mysterious anymore. You're just background noise. Predictable, constant, easy to figure out. And here's the truth. Women don't miss what they can predict. They miss what they can't quite reach, what they don't fully understand, what keeps them curious. Be the man she wonders about, not the one who lays it all out every single day, not the man who posts every meal, every thought, every move. Because when you overshare, you remove the tension, you kill the mystery. Let her check your story and find nothing. Let her pause for a second and think, where is he? What's he doing? Why didn't he post today? Let her imagination fill in the blanks. Because once her mind starts creating stories about you, you've already won. Presence is powerful, but scarcity creates desire. And when you're not everywhere, you become unforgettable. Let her feel your absence. Your absence is not about hurting her. It's not about playing games or making her chase you out of pride. It's not punishment, and it's not revenge. It's a mirror, a silent reflection of what life looks and feels like without your presence in it. Because when you've been steady, when you've been kind, thoughtful, and emotionally available, when you've listened when she needed someone, stood by her without asking for anything in return, protected her peace without making a show of it, that energy lingers. It leaves a mark even if she didn't fully notice it while you were there. That's the part most men miss. They think if she's quiet, she doesn't care. If she's moving on, she's forgotten. But emotional memory doesn't work like that. Women feel deeply, but they feel slowly. It takes time for absence to settle in. But once it does, it hurts. Not in a loud way, but in the quiet moments. When the day ends and her phone doesn't light up. When she laughs at something and you're not the first person she wants to tell. When she looks at something familiar and realizes you're no longer part of it. She might not admit it. She might pretend she's busy, post photos, hang out with friends. But the shift is real. She'll notice the gap. The empty space you used to fill not just with words or attention, but with presence. A steady presence that didn't demand, didn't overwhelm, didn't need fixing. Just was. Grounded, reliable, calm. That's what she'll miss. Not the texts, not the compliments, but the emotional safety your presence brought her. The way you made her feel without trying to impress her. The way your energy made everything feel just a little more peaceful. That's why your absence can be louder than any words. When you stop showing up gently, respectfully, and without bitterness, it doesn't feel like a storm. It feels like stillness. But that stillness will press on her heart more than any argument ever could. Because she'll start to realize something. That you were the calm in the noise. The anchor she didn't know she needed until it was gone. So don't rush back just to make a point. Don't break your silence to remind her what she's missing. You already did. Your absence is saying everything for you. Let it speak. Because sometimes, the deepest kind of missing doesn't come from distance. It comes from the quiet, aching memory of a presence that brought peace and never asked to be chased. And what she'll remember most is the moment she felt that peace leave and realized she might never feel it again. Glow up privately. There's something deeply powerful about a man who chooses to go silent, not to disappear, but to develop. Not to hide, but to evolve. Because the most unforgettable transformation isn't the one that's broadcasted. It's the one that happens quietly, while the world assumes you're standing still. There's nothing more attractive than a man who disappears and comes back better. Not louder, not desperate to be seen, but stronger, sharper, wiser. A man who chose discipline over drama and progress over performance. This kind of man doesn't post every gym session. He doesn't flash his new income or parade his routine. He's too focused building what actually matters, the parts of himself no one claps for. He's building character, resilience, direction, peace. He's working on his body not to make her jealous, but to honor himself. He's not just lifting weight. She's lifting himself out of bad habits, laziness, emotional dependency. Every workout is a quiet reminder. I am responsible for who I become. He's fixing his finances not to flex, but to protect. Because he's realized security isn't about showing off, it's about not needing anyone to save you. He's learning to manage money, invest wisely, think long-term. Because while others are chasing attention, he's building a life that doesn't fall apart if someone walks away. He's improving his mindset not to talk differently, but to think differently. He's reading, reflecting, rewiring. He's letting go of the need to control others and focusing on mastering himself. And through it all, he stays silent. No need to post every achievement. No need to seek applause or prove a point. Because real change, real growth, real masculinity doesn't need validation. It creates curiosity. Let your silence build suspense. Let your actions become the answer. Because when she looks you up months later out of boredom, curiosity, or even guilt, she won't find the man who used to chase. She won't find the man who begged for her attention. She'll find someone she never saw coming. You won't be bitter. You won't be broken. You'll be built. Built in the dark. Built in silence. Built in moments where no one was watching except you. And that version of you, the one who grew in private, stayed grounded, and never lost focus, that's the man she'll think about at night. That's the version she'll replay in her mind. Not because he chased her, but because he outgrew the version of himself who once needed her. And in that moment, she'll feel something deeper than regret. She'll feel the weight of absence, the sting of lost timing, and the ache of watching someone rise without her in the frame. Because she didn't just miss you, she missed the best season of your life. And now she can only watch it from a distance. Make her feel replaceable without saying it. You don't need to say anything. You don't need to send a message, drop a quote, or post a cryptic story. The most powerful response to being taken for granted is not a reaction. It's a quiet, graceful shift in energy, not with disrespect, not with ego, but with self-respect so solid, it speaks louder than any comeback ever could. You simply live like your life was never waiting on her validation. You keep moving forward without announcing it. You laugh real laughs with real people. You make memories she's not part of. You travel, not to run from the past, but to step into a future where you belong to yourself. And when you post that dinner photo, or that sunset view, or that group selfie, it's not about showing her what she's missing. It's about proving to yourself that you were always whole without her. That calm, that freedom, that quiet confidence, it says everything. And she'll see it. She might pretend she doesn't. She might act unbothered. But women feel energy before they process words. And when a woman senses that she's no longer the center of your attention, that she no longer holds emotional weight in your daily decisions, that shift unsettles her. Because it's not the flashy rebound or the fake "look at me" post that gets her attention. It's the fact that you didn't fall apart. You didn't chase. You didn't spiral. You simply evolved. You moved differently, quieter, sharper. You started showing the world a version of you she never met because she never stayed long enough to see it. And that's what hits the hardest. Not that you're with someone else, but that you're not sitting in the same emotional place where she left you. You're not frozen. You're not bitter. You're better. And what's worse for her than jealousy or regret is the realization that someone else might now experience the version of you she only ever scratched the surface of. Someone else will hear that laugh. Someone else will feel that emotional presence. Someone else will get the version of you that no longer needs to prove anything. You didn't do it to replace her. You didn't do it to make her feel small. You did it because that's what growth requires. Detachment, direction, and dignity. And now she's left watching from a distance. Not because you pushed her away, but because you stopped standing still. Because no woman misses the man who waits around. They miss the man who walked away and kept walking until he became unrecognizable, not to the world, but to the version of her memory that thought he'd never let go. Don't reward attention games. She posts a story, and on the surface, it looks innocent. A mirror selfie, a cute quote, a throwback, a moody song lyric. Something vague enough to deny it, specific enough to get your attention. But it's not random. It's never random. It's her way of checking if she still has access to you, without having to risk the vulnerability of reaching out directly. This is how attention games work. It's not about what she says. It's about what she subtly implies. It's about planting a seed and waiting to see if you'll water it. Maybe she posts a song you both used to love. Maybe she shares a quote that mirrors the exact conversation you once had. Maybe it's just a perfectly timed picture with a caption like, "Healing." But it's not healing she's doing. It's fishing. Fishing to see if your emotions still belong to her. If you'll take the bait. If you'll break your silence just because she left breadcrumbs on your screen. And here's where the test begins, not for her, but for you. Because something in you stirs when you see it. You feel it, the old connection, the familiarity, the history. The urge to swipe up, react, say something clever. Remind her you're still around. Not because you're needy, but because you still care, even if you've stopped showing it. But this time, you don't move. Because every time you react, even with a simple heart emoji or a lol reply, you feed her power. You validate the test. You teach her that she doesn't have to call you, message you, apologize, or admit anything. She can just hint and you'll come running. But when you stay silent, when you don't view the story, or when you do, but say absolutely nothing, that silence becomes loud. It echoes. Now she's thinking, did he see it? Is he ignoring me? Did he move on? Did I lose my hold on him? And those questions, they sting. Because women who play attention games aren't looking for closure. They're looking for control. And when you don't play, you take that control away. While other men are flooding her inbox with "kup" and "you're glowing," you're doing the rarest thing a man can do in this generation. Absolutely nothing. You're not chasing. You're not reacting. You're not seeking permission to stay relevant. You're unbothered, unreachable, unshakable. And that's what drives her crazy. Because in a world full of men begging to be noticed, you became the one man she couldn't pull in with bait. She'll start checking your profile more than she ever did before. She'll start wondering what you're doing, who you're with, whether someone else now gets the version of you she once had full access to. And even if she tries to pretend it doesn't affect her, it does. Because now, you're not the man she can summon with a story. You're the one who walked away with peace. And peace is powerful. Because it's not passive, it's intentional. It's not bitterness, it's self-respect. You don't need to ghost her. You don't need to block her. You don't need to post stories of your own to compete or win. You win by not playing. And when you do that, you shatter the cycle. You break the pattern. And when you break the pattern, you break her power over your emotions. Now, instead of being predictable, you're a mystery. And mystery is magnetic. You didn't curse her. You didn't confront her. You didn't try to prove anything. You just stopped feeding the game. And that silence, that lack of reaction, that mature, grounded detachment, it says everything she wasn't ready to hear. I'm no longer the man who responds to breadcrumbs. I'm not waiting for your attention. I'm focused on my path, and I don't look back for people who walked away without a word. Now you're not just avoiding a trap. You're creating gravity. You're the quiet voice in her mind that whispers in her most reflective moments. Why did he stop caring? What if someone else sees in him what I didn't? Why does it feel worse now than when he was around? Because the man who doesn't react, the man who doesn't chase validation, the man who doesn't need her attention to feel whole, he becomes unforgettable. Not because he made noise, but because he became the silence that echoes the loudest Unders. In a world where everyone else is screaming for attention, stay calm when she reaches out. One day, it happens. You're living your life, focused, balanced, moving forward. And just when you've stopped expecting it, there it is. A sudden notification. Her name on your screen. A message that seems harmless, almost friendly. Maybe it's a funny meme. Maybe it's a random, "Hey, how have you been?" Maybe it's just an emoji, a reaction to your story, or a quote she knows you'll catch. But it's not about what she sent. It's about why she sent it. Because make no mistake, this isn't random. She didn't trip and land in your inbox. She's testing the waters. Not because she's ready to give you everything you once gave her, but because she wants to know if you're still available emotionally. She's not just saying hi. She's asking without asking, "Are you still mine if I want you again?" She's checking if the space she once filled in your life is still there, untouched, waiting. It's not commitment. It's control. And this is the moment most men fail. They've been hoping for this. They've played this scene in their mind 100 times. What they'll say, how they'll finally get closure, or how this might be the beginning of something new. So they jump in, reply within seconds, send a full paragraph, ask if she wants to talk, suggest a call. They give her everything, again because they think the door is reopening. But you're not that man anymore. You've grown. You've evolved. You've learned that your peace is too valuable to hand over just because someone came knocking out of curiosity. Now you see the difference between a message and a meaning, between a check-in and a commitment, between presence and intention. So when she reaches out, you don't panic. You don't light up the screen with your emotions. You don't let your energy spike just because she suddenly remembered you exist. You stay calm, rooted, balanced, grounded. Be kind, yes. You don't need to be cold, but be composed. Let her see in your tone that you're doing well, not pretending actually well. Let her feel in your silence between replies that your world didn't stop when she left. Let her know through your steady energy that you're not the same man she once walked away from. A short reply, polite, warm, but with the undertone of a man who no longer waits. And now, she's the one wondering, because something's different. You're not rushing to prove your worth. You're not asking follow-up questions. You're not handing her your time like it costs nothing. She expected the old version of you, the one who'd light up when she gave a little attention, the one who would drop everything for a second chance, the one who needed her approval to feel complete. But this version of you, this version is unmoved, grounded, present, clear. And that shakes her, because emotional stability in a man is rare. And when she realizes she can no longer sway you with breadcrumbs, that's when she starts to feel the loss. It's not jealousy, it's not even regret. It's something deeper. It's the ache of watching a man evolve beyond her reach. Now she's replaying everything in her head. Your last conversation, your silence, your growth. And now, every time she thinks of reaching out again, she hesitates. Because she remembers that you didn't jump last time. You didn't rush to open the door. And that uncertainty, that mystery, it plants itself deep in her mind. She starts wondering if she still has a place in your world. If someone else has stepped in. If you've changed in ways she'll never fully know. That mystery doesn't fade. It lingers. Because it's not the attention you gave her that stuck. It's the calm confidence you held when you didn't need her attention at all. You didn't beg. You didn't break. You didn't bend. You showed her without trying that you're no longer dependent on her energy to validate your worth. That your life has momentum, with or without her. And that realization, it leaves a mark. Because when a man doesn't chase, when he holds his peace like a sword, calm, steady and unshakable, he becomes unforgettable. Not just in that moment, but in every moment after, as she silently wonders if she let the best version of you walk away. And this time, he didn't look back. Create one unforgettable memory. You don't need to impress her with wealth. You don't need designer gifts, candlelit dinners in rooftop restaurants, or a surprise weekend trip to Paris. You don't need flowers sent to her office with a handwritten card and a dozen red roses. That's what the world tells men they need to do. That's what social media teaches: flash status, do the most, outshine the last guy. But here's the truth, none of that lingers. None of it stays in her bones, like a quiet moment that touched her soul. The things that last are the things that feel. And what she will remember years from now, maybe when she's with someone else, maybe in the quiet of her own thoughts, won't be the price tag. It will be the presence. It will be that single moment where time slowed down and she felt completely seen, completely safe, and completely still. Because you don't need money to leave a mark. You don't need a grand gesture. You need presence. You need authenticity. You need one real, emotionally charged moment that only you could give her. It might be something as simple as a nickname. Not babe, not honey, not something every man has called her, but something you created, tied to a private joke, a detail she thought no one noticed. Her love for lemon cake, the way she hums when she's nervous, that one movie she always rewatched when she missed her dad. You took something small and made it sacred. And now, even when someone else says that word by accident, it hits her chest like a memory she didn't ask for. It might be a song, not the kind you danced to in public, but the one that played in the background during a night drive, windows down, both of you silent, just breathing. No selfies, no words, just a shared stillness that said, this moment matters. And now, every time that melody hits the iRat at a party, in a store, on a late-night playlist, it doesn't just remind her of the music, it reminds her of you. Of that version of herself she was when she was with you, unguarded, soft, seen. Maybe it was a random park bench you both sat on when you didn't have anywhere else to go. Maybe it was a hole-in-the-wall cafe you found together. Maybe it was the way your jacket smelled when she wore it home. These aren't events. They're not Instagrammable memories. They're anchors, emotional fingerprints. They become a part of her wiring without her even noticing. They're invisible tattoos on the heart. Moments her mind may forget, but her soul never will. Because that's how memory works. The loud stuff fades. The polished, flashy, staged experiences blur into every other relationship she's had. But that one quiet moment, the one that was real, raw, and unforced, that's the one that stays. Every time she walks past that cafe, her steps slow just a little. Every time someone else plays that song, she doesn't smile the same way. Every time someone else calls her that nickname, she pulls away because it doesn't feel right on anyone else's tongue. And she might not even realize what's happening. Her chest will feel heavy. She'll feel alone in a crowded room. Not because she wants to miss you, but because she can't help it. Because missing you is no longer a choice. It's a response, a reflex built into her emotional memory. You became a shadow in her world, not a ghost, but a presence that walks beside her silently, not close enough to interrupt her life, but deep enough that she can't ignore it when it whispers. And here's the hardest part. She may try to replace that feeling. She'll meet men who plan bigger dates, say sweeter things, offer more security. but she'll keep finding that something's missing. She'll keep looking for that feeling, the one you gave her without trying. Because what you gave her wasn't built on perfection. It was built on presence, on connection, on honesty. And true connection doesn't happen twice in the same way. So while others will offer her flowers, vacations, and attention, none of it will compare to that one moment. That one quiet, soul-stirring moment where she felt like home had a heartbeat. And it was yours. That's what makes her miss you. Not what you said, not what you gave, but how she felt when she was with you, and how empty the world feels now that she's not. Long after the texts fade, long after the photos are deleted, long after the distance grows and new faces come into her life, that memory stays. Because the deepest kind of missing isn't loud. It doesn't need words. It was born in silence, in a breath, in a moment that changed her without her realizing it at the time. And when her mind tries to forget, her heart will gently remind her, you weren't just a chapter. You were the feeling she didn't know how to explain. And now, she'll never stop remembering. The most powerful part of you is the part that stays still when everything around you tries to shake you. Not passive, not bitter, just still. Still in your standards. Still in your discipline. Still in your sense of self. Because the secret isn't in what you say to her. It's not in how fast you reply or how cleverly you express your worth. It's in how you carry yourself when you say absolutely nothing. Your silence, when rooted in confidence, is louder than any words you could send. Not because it's cold, but because it's composed. Because it says, I don't need to explain my value. I live it. This isn't about ignoring her to hurt her. It's not about playing games or seeking revenge. It's about stepping back, so your presence can finally speak without interruption. It's about trusting that if she's meant to feel your absence, she will. Not through guilt, but through comparison, because eventually, she'll meet people who don't listen the way you did, who don't bring the same peace, who don't hold her emotions the same way. And slowly, she'll start realizing your energy wasn't just different, it was irreplaceable. If she's meant to come back, she will. But not because you chased her, not because you lowered your standards just to keep her close. She'll come back because you stood firm, and she finally saw what she walked away from. You don't force anything. You don't beg. You don't try to convince someone of your worth. You let your life do that for you. Through your focus, your peace, your movement, your absence. And when you live this way, you stop fearing loss, because you know what's meant for you will never need chasing. And what leaves you will either regret it or make space for something far better. Let her miss the man who didn't chase, who didn't fold, who didn't lose his center just because someone else lost their clarity. Let her miss the man who stayed grounded when everything around him felt unstable. The man who didn't use silence as punishment, but as presence, a presence so steady, so rare, so real, that even when you're gone, you're still felt. Let her feel the kind of silence that doesn't fade, because it was never emptiness. It was value. It was strength. It was you, choosing peace over proving a point. And in the end, that's the kind of man the world doesn't forget. Not because he chased attention, but because he became the echo that never stops ringing long after the noise is gone.